All right, we're here at my VermiHut indoor worm tower. And the last time we were here, we talked a little bit about the lid, but I want to go more in depth. Underneath this sealing part of the lid is a coconut fiber mat. And what that does is it prevents any kinds of insects from getting in through these air holes that you see right here. If they did try to get in there, they just wouldn't be able to make it through the labyrinth and then out through these holes. This lid helps everything to get very aerated, but the worms also like to explore. This lid helps to keep it very humid inside the bin, so that allows the worms to kind of use that humidity to make it through the sides and through the sides of the bin itself right here. So I'm going to set this lid to the side. The worms will actually crawl down into these holes and we'll make sure we don't lose any. And we'll continue with the feeding. All right, so you can see, like we demonstrated last time, the worms can crawl up and then kind of onto that lid and they leave their castings right here. And the last time we were in here, we put some pulverized oats on the top and did a top feeding. And then we put the newspaper back on, and as you can see, they have eaten most of the newspaper. There's just one little part right here I can recognize, and maybe here and here. So they have definitely feasted on those top oats. So let's go ahead and dig into the feeding zone, which I believe was right here, and see how they did with that. Our last feeding consisted of some banana peels, some apple cores, strawberries, carrot tops, that kind of thing. We also topped it with some more pulverized oats and some coffee and eggshells. And in fact, the pulverized eggshells kind of jumped out of the container I had and made a little clump, and I don't see that anywhere. So I have found that my worms really like to take those pulverized eggshells and just kind of use them and spread them around and use them in their gizzards. I never find them clumped up. And right now, after 7 days, I'm not finding too much of that feeding zone. Right here is some banana, and I see the peel that is left, and they're doing a really good job with it. I estimate that I have somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 worms in here, and that is plenty for this worm tower. I think I started with 2,000. You can easily start with 1,000 or even 500, but when I started, I just kind of want to make sure I had enough, and 2,000 is a great number to start with. But they can get pretty expensive if you're buying them outright. So again, just more bananas, or I'm sorry, banana peels, but I'm not finding any of those apples. Apples are usually a slow food and it takes them a while to eat them, but they are just feasting on them, and I'm not finding any right now. So I've got a hungry bin. What that means to me is that I probably need to feed a little bit more, because all that is left of that kind of really good slow and fast food feeding is just the banana peels. All right, I'm gonna kind of go through the top section and this section over here and see if I find any more food and see how the worms are doing, and then we'll come back and feed them all. All right, I'm just gonna stop real quick. This isn't a worm ball, but it just kind of demonstrates how many worms are in this bin and how throughout all the bedding they are. Now, this tray got its birth as an inoculating tray, which just means I filled it up with cardboard and some paper shreds and threw it on the bottom. And it was down there for 79 days until it came up here 26 days ago as the active feeding tray. It's only had 3 active feedings of food scraps, and our last feeding was 7 days ago. So having this down there as an inoculating tray has really helped accelerate how fast they are turning this food and bedding into wonderful castings. All right, let me keep digging. As I was kind of digging through there, I found some interesting stuff. I think this was part of a broccoli stem that we had. You can see they ate the inside out, but left kind of the fibers. It'll be a while before they eat all that up. A little bit of newspaper, and then the majority of what I found left over was banana peels. So they're doing a pretty good job with it, but they've eaten all the flesh off them before they kind of finish off and attack these. So let's go ahead and make our feeding zone right here. And we're gonna feed them a little bit more than we have before. This is an avocado pit. I'm just gonna try and squeeze it. It's starting to break apart and it's real moist, so that's going to be part of their feeding zone as well. But we've got kind of more of the same, but I'm going to feed them a little bit more because they really took care of that last feeding zone, and it was my normal 7 days, so I think we can get some more. And I don't have any overabundance of mites or springtails or any kind of bin critters, so I think more food is in order for this bin. So the first thing I always like to do is add additional bedding. And I do this for about the first 100 or so days in a normal bin, and probably the first 45 days of an active feeding tray. And that's because the worms use the bedding as food, and I'm also trying to add carbon every time I add nitrogen. So we're going to put that there, and then we'll just kind of spread out this old food, which is again just the banana peels. Put that little broccoli stem in there as well, and our avocado seed. And then we're going to add our next feeding. So here's what we had in mind. We've got some blueberries, strawberries, more banana peels, and a little bit of lettucey greens and a carrot. So let's go ahead and add that in there. Just gonna kind of pile it in, and we'll see how they do with it. Now, if I'm putting a lot of banana peels in and not so much other food, they're gonna take care of it and they will attack it, and we'll see it disappear a little bit faster than that other stuff. But I'm really gonna kind of get to the top here with this food. One, because it's piling up in my freezer, but two, because these worms have demonstrated that they can handle it. And surprisingly, I think we're gonna be able to get all this food in here. This is gonna be one of the bigger feedings I've ever added in here. So hopefully I'm not gonna regret it. I don't think I will. And I will say, just by looking at it, it's also one of the more colorful feedings I've ever given. So here we go. Here's the pulverized oats that we've been adding lately because I ran into some expired oats I had in my pantry that were expired for 4 years. And then we're gonna add some coffee grounds and tea grounds, and you can see they're just a little bit of a more tan color, or not quite a dark color, and that's because there's mold that's been growing on them, which helps to break them down. And then finally, we're gonna add some pulverized eggshells, and they use this for grit. Like I described earlier, no matter how much I put in here, they really seem to use it and spread it around the bin. And I also like it for my garden. So I'm pretty excited to see how the worms do with this feeding that we've given them here, this pretty large feeding. And if you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate if you hit the like button and consider subscribing. I've got a couple other bins that I do. I've got an outdoor worm bin and a tiny worm bin, and I try different things in each of them, kind of do experiments. And as you can see, this is kind of mounding up right here. And I bet that at the next check-in, this is gonna be more depressed than these edges towards the front and towards the back. So I think we're gonna continue with that top feeding of the pulverized oats. I still have so many oats left and I wanna get rid of them. So let's go ahead and do that. And this time I think I'll try and put maybe a little bit more in there. I'm almost done with the ones that I've ground inside here. This is almost empty, and I've had just really great results. Each time that I've come in here and put pulverized oats on top, the newspaper has disintegrated, or, they've eaten it. So I've been impressed with that. Just another way to help them continue to feed and eat the nitrogen and the carbon. So let's go ahead and put the newspaper on top, and I hope everybody's having a great day, and happy vermicomposting, everybody. Take care now.